If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This video is an in-depth overview of the Imperial Knight Index Detachment, the Noble Lance. The Knights have received a bunch of profile and points changes. I figured as we get into the Imperial Knight content, going over the detachment would be another good place to start. We will take a look at the Imperial Knight Army Rule, the Noble Lance Detachment Rule, Enhancements and Stratagems, then discuss how we can use these rules to our advantage. Like always for my overviews, I have some example lists for the Noble Lance Detachment. Let's start with the Imperial Knight Army Rules. They do have a few different things that make up their Army Rule. The first one is Code Chivalric. If your army faction is Imperial Knight, at the end of the Read Mission Objective step, you must select one of the oaths below to be active for your army. Models from your army with this ability gain the associated oath ability, and you gain the associated deed to complete. If at the start of any of your command phases your selected oath deed is completed, your army becomes honored for the rest of the battle, and you gain 3 CP. You can only gain CP in this way once per battle, and the CP gained this way are an exemption to the core rules that limit the maximum number of CP you can gain per battle round to 1. We do have 2 different oaths. The first one is Lay Low the Tyrant. The oath ability is each time this model is selected to shoot or fight, you can re-roll 1 hit roll and you can re-roll 1 wound roll. The deed is completed if you kill the enemy warlord. Our other oath is Reclaim the Realm. The oath ability is add 1 to the model's move characteristic and add 1 to the advance and charge rolls made for this model. The deed is completed if you control 1 or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone. Then we have the Bondsman abilities. Some Questoris models have a Bondsman ability tagged with the words Bondsman. In your command phase, 1 or more models from your army with a Bondsman ability can use that ability. For each one that does, select 1 friendly armiger model within 12 inches of that model. You cannot select an armiger model that has already been affected by a Bondsman ability, meaning we can't use more than 1 Bondsman ability on each of these armigers. Until the start of your next command phase, the armiger model you have selected is affected by that Bondsman ability. We have Super Heavy Walker as well. Each time a model with this ability makes a normal, advance, or fallback move, it can move through models excluding Titanic models and sections of terrain features that are 4 inches or less in height when doing so. With Super Heavy Walker, you can move within engagement range of enemy models, but cannot end that move within engagement range of them. It can also move through sections of terrain features that are more than 4 inches in height, but if it does, after it has moved, roll 1d6. On a 1, that model is battle shocked. Finally, part of the Army Rule is the Free Blades. This allows you to take Imperial Knights as allies. If every model in your army has the Imperium keyword, you can either include 1 Titanic Imperial model or up to 3 armiger models in your army. Even if they do not have the faction keyword you selected in the Select Army Faction step, none of these models can be your warlord and they cannot be given enhancements. That's a lot of things for an army rule, so let's unpack some of those rules. Code Chivalric, unless you are running a melee build to take advantage of the +1 advance and charge, we want to choose Lay Low the Tyrant. Reroll 1 hit roll and reroll 1 wound roll may not seem that much at first. The Knights have some of the hardest hitting weapons in 40k in shooting or melee. The downside being the low amount of attacks for such weapons. Reroll a hit and wound roll on a 4 attacks damage 8 weapon all of a sudden looks much better. Then we have the Bondsman abilities. These are how we add some customization to our armigers. The Knights can give the armigers advance and charge, +1 AP, sustain hits, and much more. Each of these smaller Knights can only have 1 Bondsman ability at a time. Another important thing to note is that the target of the Bondsman ability does not need to be visible, only within 12 inches of that Knight. Super Heavy Walker, being able to move over or through enemy models, helps move these big models around the board. We can't end that movement within engagement range of those enemy models though. The move through terrain pieces with a low chance of being battle shocked part of the Super Heavy Walker was not originally in 10th edition. Now that we can smash these things through buildings, it opens up a lot more potential movement for the Knights. There is around 16.6% chance to roll a 1. I'll take those odds to smash through some terrain. The final part of the Army Rule, Free Blades. This is the rule that allows us to take an Imperial Knight or up to 3 armigers as Imperial allies for other Imperial factions. Examples are the Grey Knights, who do not have a lot of ranged anti-tank or even hard-hitting melee options other than the Nemesis Dread Knight. Canis Rex is one, or if not one of the best options currently for the Freeblade Knight. Next up is the Noble Lance Detachment Rule. Indomitable Heroes. All Imperial Knight models from your army have the 6+ Feel No Pain ability. If your army is honored, those models have a 5+ Feel No Pain ability. A simple yet effective army rule. We are not going to be rolling 6s all the time. With a large amount of wounds per knight, we should at least roll a few. The Detachment Rule paired with Lay Low the Tyrants also puts the fear of the Emperor into the opponent's Warlord. If they get too aggressive with their Warlord, get that Warlord killed early. Now we have a 5+ Feel No Pain on the Knights instead of a 6+, going from a 16% chance to blank a wound to a 33% chance. If we get this 5+ Feel No Pain early, it can be a rough game for our opponent. Next up, we have the Noble Lance Enhancements. Unlike the Chaos Knights, the Imperial Knights currently do not have any character armigers, meaning we can only put our enhancements on the big boy Knights. Some of them can help buff the smaller armigers though. With the Knights points drops, there are some more room to play with these enhancements. Our first one is Banner of the Triumphant, Imperial Knight models only. If you control an objective marker at the end of your command phase, and the bearer is within range of that objective marker remains under your control, even if you have no models within range of it, until your opponent controls it at the start or end of any turn. With an elite army like the Imperial Knights can be very helpful for keeping the pressure on the opponent. It is also at the end of the command phase, meaning this will work turn 1, objective control is checked at the start or end of any phase. The start of the phase, the objective becomes ours, making it stay under our control with this enhancement, even with no friendly models on the objective. Next is Mysterious Guardian, Imperial Knight model only. The bearer has the Deep Strike ability, and once per battle at the end of your opponent's turn, if the bearer is not within engagement range of any enemy units, it can fade away. If it does, remove it from the battlefield. Then in the reinforcement step of your subsequent movement phase, set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches horizontally away from all enemy models. If the battle ends and the bearer is not on the battlefield, it is destroyed. What seems to get overlooked is that as well as the once per game uppy downy, the Knight also gets Deep Strike. It opens up this enhancement to be used on a melee or ranged Knight. Start a Castellan on the board for shooting, use this to reposition it in the later turns to get some great line of sight. Or throw it on a melee Knight like the Castigator Lancer, start it in reserves only to rapid ingress it from 1 CP, charge it in our turn, then pick it up in the next opponent's turn. This can be a very powerful enhancement or a waste of points. Like I say in my Custodians video for the Alaris Golden Light ability, do not waste these strong once per game reposition moves on a nothing play. Be sure to be gaining points or denying enemy points when using this. Stephen Box and Vanguard Tactics say CP for VP, which is a simple and great tip. At Hubtown Hammer, we say once per game to win the game. Use those once per game abilities to be a net win for us or loss for the enemy. Then we have Mythic Hero, Questoris models with a Bondsman ability only. Each time this bearer uses its Bondsman ability, you can select one additional friendly armiger models within 12 inches of this bearer that is not already being affected by a Bondsman ability. Until the start of your next command phase, that model also is affected by that Bondsman ability. Now that the Knights are cheaper, we may see this enhancement even more. Taking a random Knight just for the Bondsman ability to buff armigers is a list option now. It used to be 1 or 2 Knights with armigers, well now with the new points it could be 3 or even 4 Knights with armigers. Being able to put a Knight's Bondsman ability on 2 different armigers can be very strong, depending on the buff it gives. Our next enhancement is Revered Knight, and this is an aura ability. Imperial Knight model only, while a friendly Imperial Knight model is within 6 inches of the bearer, improve the model's leadership by 1. If your army is honored, increase the range of this ability by 12 inches. This looks to be the worst enhancement in the detachment. Extra objective control is a nice bonus. The armigers have dropped from OC 8 to OC 6. Even then, I do not think this is an enhancement we want to use besides as a points filler. 6 inches is a tough ask when the faction is so elite. We are usually spread out more on the tabletop than a less elite faction. The Noble Lance does have a 5th enhancement on yielding Paragon, Questoris model only. Each time attack is allocated to the bearer, worsen the armor penetration of that attack by 1. The fact that this can be a ranged or melee attack makes this enhancement quite powerful. In the days of 3+ saves for the Knights, -1 AP to incoming attack is a nice survivability buff. It is currently the most expensive enhancement, but depending on the opponent, this can be a lifesaver. Low AP attacks despise this enhancement. 4 out of the 5 enhancements could be considered good enhancements. Depending on the list, they could be great. We can only take a maximum of 3 in the list. The actual makeup of your list will dictate which of these enhancements are taken. I myself want to try Mythic Hero with a Knight Warden to give 2 armigers the -1 damage bondsman ability. Now with more overall knights on the tables, these armigers could do some real work. On to the Noble Lance Stratagems. The Noble Lance Detachment has some powerful stratagems. It is one of the main reasons we see Canis Rex as the start of every list. It also could be he is the only named Imperial Knight. The real reason is his legendary Freeblade ability. It allows him to reduce the cost of a stratagem by 1 CP each battle round. This makes Canis Rex near auto-include, even more so at his current 380 points. Our first stratagem is Rotate Ion Shields for 1 CP. In your opponent's shooting phase until the end of the phase, the Imperial Knight model has a 4+ invulnerable save against ranged attacks. The most used stratagem in the detachment. I think this will be even more used now that the Knights have lost 1 toughness across the board. The Imperial Knights have a 5+ invulnerable to ranged attacks, which is good. A 4+ invulnerable to las cannons and other anti-tank sounds much better. Be very careful the opponent does not bait this stratagem out of us. Try to have a plan on what knight we want to be using this stratagem on. Next is Shoulder the Burden for 2 CP in your command phase, 1 Imperial Knight model from your army that has lost 1 or more wounds. Until the start of your next command phase, improve the model's movement, toughness, save, leadership, and objective control by 1. And each time your model makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Restrictions with this one is you can only use this stratagem once per battle. If your army is honored, you can use this stratagem 1 additional time. This is an interesting but very powerful stratagem. We can only use this once per game, twice if we get our army honored. The knight has to have lost at least 1 wound, an easy hoop to jump through though. +1 move, toughness, save, leadership, and objective control, and each time your model makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll is one heck of a buff. +1 toughness becomes even stronger in the land of toughness 11 Questoris Knights. The real question will be who to use this stratagem on. Canis Rex is a prime target since he already is a beast and he can reduce the cost of the stratagem down to 1 CP. Shoulder the Burden can be game changing. It lasts until the start of our next command phase. A Knight Castellan with all of its guns, +1 move to get those guns into range, then +1 to hit with all of those mighty guns. This is a strong buff that can be used on many different knights. It depends on your list and it depends on what knight you want to use it on. Next up is Squire's Duty for 1 CP. At the start of your shooting or the start of the fight phase, 2 or more armiger models from your army and 1 enemy unit that is an eligible target for all of those armiger models. Until the end of the phase, when resolving attack that targets that enemy unit, improve the strength and armor penetration characteristics of weapons equipped by those armiger models by 1. If your army is honored until the end of the phase, add 1 to the damage of those weapons as well. Another great stratagem. This one really powers up the armigers. It makes the Helverin's autocannons much better in this detachment. AP1 is the rough part of the Helverin autocannons, or rather how easy it is to get cover in 10th edition. +1 strength takes those same autocannons from strength 9 to strength 10. Now they can threaten strength 10 vehicles and monsters with AP2 damage 3 shots. Melta guns also go from strength 9 AP4 to strength 10 AP5. The Warglaze melee strike profile from strength 10 to strength 11, just like the Helverin's autocannons, they can threaten those toughness 10 enemy units much better. If our army is honored, look out. +1 damage on the armiger weapons is scary. Damage 4 autocannons and damage 2 Warglaive sweeps are the highlight of getting that +1 damage. Next up is Thunderstomp for 1 CP. In the fight phase, 1 Imperial Knight model from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. Until the end of the phase, your monster cannot target monster or vehicle units, but all melee weapons equipped by that model have the Devastating Wounds ability. The fact that this does not work against monster or vehicle units takes some of the power out of this stratagem. It makes it much more situational. The more melee attacks the knight has, the better. Canis Rex with a sweep attack is a good option. 10 attacks, sustain hits 1 with critical hits on 5+. This is more for killing anti-elite units, but do we need Devastating Wounds? I'm not so sure. The Knight Gallant's Reaper Chainsword sweep profile has 18 attacks, AP 3, damage 2. We get lucky, we hit every time. Even with a spike roll of 6 or 7 6s for Devastating Wounds, that is most likely 6 or 7 dead infantry. Or we save the 1 CP and let the AP3 do the talking. Thunderstomp can help take out elite infantry. Most of the Knight's high volume attacks are only damage 2, not the best for killing 3 wound models. The Devastating Wounds would help, but once again, damage 2 against damage 3 does hurt. We could use the strike profiles against those 3 wound models, but a lot of the time we're going to be overkilling them. Those are also a lot less attacks and a lot less chances to get these Devastating Wounds. The next stratagem is Trophy Claim for 2 CP. In your shooting phase or the fight phase, 1 Imperial Knight model from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase and 1 enemy monster or vehicle unit. Until the end of the phase, each time your model makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, add 1 to the wound roll. If your model destroys that enemy unit this phase, you can gain 1 CP. But if your model does not destroy that enemy unit, you cannot use this stratagem again for the rest of the battle. Another really interesting stratagem, +1 to the wound roll into monster or vehicle units, is going to have these knights wounding most things on a 2+. Very strong, but there is a fun interaction with this stratagem. Failing to kill the unit and then losing the stratagem for the rest of the battle gives this stratagem a bit of flavor. These may be giant stompy knights, we still want to put some thought into when and where we want to use this stratagem. 2 CP, possibly 1 CP if we manage to kill our target, is a good thing. I don't want to spam this every shooting or the fight phase. If this was just 1 CP total, we'd be using this as much as we could. Next we have Valiant Last Stand for 2 CP. We use this in our fight phase, and this is a fight on death stratagem. You don't have to roll any dice, you just pay 2 CP and you fight on death. When doing so, you assume to have 1 wound remaining unless you are honored. If you're honored, you get to fight as if you had full wounds remaining. Restrictions: you cannot target Sir Hector with this stratagem. 2 CP to fight on death is expensive. Then we see that it's just fight on death, no need to roll a 2+ or a 4+, you pay 2 CP, you fight on death. When not honored, at 1 wounds remaining means the knight will be hitting at -1 to the hit. Depending on the amount of melee attacks, this could really hurt the overall damage. If our army is honored, Valiant Last Stand for 2 CP just got better. The knights will be hitting at their full weapon skill, even better for fights on death. 2 CP is expensive. A fight on death big knight makes it a very powerful 2 CP spend. Let's take a look at some lists for the Noble Lance Detachment. We have some 1000 points list and some 2000 points lists. Let's take a look at the 1000 points list first. Our first one comes to 995 points. Our warlord is Canis Rex. For our battle line, we do have 2 Armiger Helverins with the autocannons and the Questoris Stubbers, as well as 3 Armiger Warglaives with the Meltagun, Thermal Spear, and Reaper Chaincleaver. For the allied unit, we do have Watch Captain Artemis to stand on the home objective and hold that for the game. The other 1000 point list we have also comes to 995 points. The warlord this time is a Knight Warden with the Mythic Hero Enhancement, allowing him to use his Bondsman ability on 2 different Armiger Warglaives. Battle line, we do have 2 Armiger Helverins and 2 Armiger Warglaives. Once again, allied unit is Watch Captain Artemis to hold my home objective. Next up, we have 3 2000 points list. Our first Noble Lance 2000 point list, I've called this one Big and Little Brothers. It comes to 2000 points. My warlord is Canis Rex. For the other characters, we do have 2 Knight Gallants with the Reaper Chainsword, Thunderstrike Gauntlet, Meltagun, and the Storm Spear Rocket Pod, as well as the Knight Warden with the Mythic Hero to allow that double Bondsman ability with the Thunderstrike Gauntlet, Storm Spear Rocket Pod, and the Avenger Gatling Cannon. Battle line is 2 Armiger Helverins and 2 Armiger Warglaives. And this is my 4 Big Knights and 4 Little Knights list. It comes to 2000 points. Our next 2000 points list, I've named this one Daddy Rex. The only Big Knight in the list is Canis Rex, our warlord. For the battle line, I do have 6 Armiger Helverins and 6 Armiger Warglaves. This comes to a perfect 2,000 points. The next 2,000 points list is my own personal list. I've named this one the House Anubis. It comes to 1,995 points. My warlord is Canis Rex. For the other characters, I do have a Cerastus Knight Lancer with the Mysterious Guardian enhancement. Once again, the Knight Warden with the Mythic Hero, so I can do the 2 Bondsman abilities. Battle line, 3 Armiger Helverins and 2 Armiger Warglaves. All 5 Armigers are equipped with melta guns. For my allied unit, I do have a Calidus Assassin for doing some secondary actions, and Watch Captain Artemis for once again standing on my home objective. House Anubis comes to 1,995 points. Those are my Noble Lance list examples. Let's move on to some final thoughts. I have only used the Imperial Knights as allies before I decided to fully cover the Imperial Knights. The datasheets make for some great allied units. The Noble Lance powers up the Knights a lot more than I had thought. I had not really studied the Noble Lance rules until now. I have to say they are quite strong, a lot more diverse than I thought they would have been. Next Imperial Knights Thursday, we will have an Imperial Knight Warden deep dive. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.